vinga, va, provem. Molt bé, ara ja sí. Què tal el circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya com esteu? Molt bon dia, bonjour a tots els français, bienvenue.
Welcome everybody to Saturday morning and beautiful conditions here at the circuit to Catalunya, Barcelona for the latest rounds of the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. This will be the fifth meeting of their season, having already had a couple of races at Spa way back in May to support the World Endurance Championship, a couple of races at Zolder, and then on to Zandvoort in the beach of the Netherlands there, and Assen, and now we're here in Spain for, in a sense, a kind of getaway weekend for the Benelux Championship, principally basing itself, of course, in Belgium and the Netherlands. But we have a team from Luxembourg as well to represent the Lux in the title of the championship. There's the track then, split into three sectors. So much testing done here throughout the course of the season, but not necessarily for many of these drivers. 4.6 kilometres in the northeastern corner of Spain in Catalunya. My name's Johnny Palmer. Delighted to say that I'm joined by Graham Goodwin, who's the editor of dailysportscar.com as well. And 20 cars, all neatly assembled, Graham, in three different classes. I think this is going to be an interesting race, not least because the kind of runaway championship leader at the moment isn't even here.
He's not. Harry King away racing elsewhere this weekend, and that means that the two other drivers that can challenge for this championship effectively get something of a, well, not quite a free pass, but certainly an open door to close what is quite a substantial 50-point gap. And indeed, Glenn Codel there is the third-placed car in the order at the moment. It is Glenn van Paris that could overtake the championship leader with a perfect score this weekend, but didn't do his cause very much good in qualifying for the second race, which we'll see later today, with multiple laps lost to track limits.
So the times taken from qualifying late last night, Glenn van Parijs will be on pole for the first race of the weekend with Gilles Cordeel alongside. Then it's Rick Kuhn and Javier Masson, a double champion in this championship. Sander de Jonge and Jan Larijsen comes next. And then it's Lucas van Eindhoven, the 20-year-old, Sebastian Lejeune of France. Cars now heading out onto their warming up lap. It will be a standing start. The local boy starts ninth. This is Jaume Font from Barcelona, run by Bapora Motorsport. Very much a local entity as well. Giovanni Scamardi, never done any racing prior to this weekend for Duvo. They are the team representing Luxembourg. Nicolas van Dierendonk's a guest driver. We've got Stijn Lovetta, who is running with NGT Racing. Tom Bonen and Michel Haverens. Then Sven van Lara and Horst Felix Felbermeyer, also a guest driver. We'll talk a lot about Horst Felix through the course of the two races today. Didier Gloria, Luc van der Viesten, Dominic Bastian and Jeroen Krieft represent our 20 cars on the grid. A lot of them from Pro, 8 of them in total in the Pro category. Pro-Am, there are 3 of them, and they have been championship regulars. And then the Am cars, they differ in spec very slightly as well, because the Am cars all have anti-lock braking system. So you do have an assist when you're going into the corners, which represents quite an interesting dynamic, Graham, because generally the Am cars are slower because of the driving experience, I suppose, the nut behind the wheel, you might say. They're slower than the Pro-Ams and the Pros. However, they can gain time in the corners because of that driver assist.
Absolutely, a big advantage to them. Huge confidence boost as well to what you have to say for the most part will be less experienced drivers. But lots of talking points in this field, Johnny. It's a different looking field than we've had for the previous rounds of this championship. This, the 9th of what will be 12 races. One more race to come here in Barcelona, 2 more to come to complete the season at Hockenheim in these, I have to say, fabulous looking Porsche 992 based GT3 Cup cars. What a history for Porsche one-mate racing since the Carrera Cup started back in 1990.
And this is a very special year for the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux as well, because they're celebrating their first decade in existence. First season was 2013, for very much an older spec of Porsche. That was the GT3 Cup Type 997 when Jeffrey van Hooijdonk won the championship for the DVB Racing outfit. But Xavier Masson, as mentioned, a double champion in 2014 and 2017. Max van Splunteren took the title in 2019. Loic Hartog and Dylan de Dale, who are doing very special things now in levels of Porsches at Super Cup level, Mobil 1 Super Cup level. So this is an ideal route into, in inverted commas, the higher profile Porsche Cup divisions like Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland and on into the Super Cup that supports the Grand Prix. However, there is a bedrock of real talent here, particularly, you know, guys in their late teens, even in the case of Horst Felix Felbermayr, and early 20s. Lucas van Eindhoven, who we'll talk about quite a lot during the course of the race, will start from 7th position for JW Race Service. Now, there's a yellow flag partway down the grid, suggesting maybe someone's in strife already. Has a car stalled? Maybe a driver? No, that was just in order to get everybody in position. Now we get the green flag, so everybody is in their correct spot. And for the 9th time this year for the Porsche Carrera Benelux, we are underway at Barcelona. It looks to be a good start from Glenn van Parijs, but even better alongside Guilain Cordiel, who didn't start from pole position, but he's going to have the ideal route into the first corner. And Cordiel in the white, black and red car will bag the race lead, I think, although they're leaning on each other through the first sequence of corners. Rick Kuhn in the colours we're more used to seeing Harry King racing. Remember, Harry busy at Spa this weekend, but that is still a Revs Motorsport machine. Rick Kuhn slotting into 3rd position. Everybody else working their way through turns 2 and 3, and now into the braking area for 4, and having a long look at the inside there, Xavier Masson in the all-black 28. Nowhere through there. There are about 3 places you can go for a full-blooded overtake around this lap, as Sam de Jonge in the red treble 7 car thinks about a move on Masson as well. And now there's some side-by-side shuffling a little further back. That was Stijn Loetta gaining some ground, Graham.
Yeah, elbows out there. Great start though from Guilain Cordiel to muscle his way into the prime position to get through into and through turn 1, but it's vital that both of those leading drivers come through this race cleanly if they're going to keep their championship hopes alive.
Yeah, it's all about, well, being forceful but not taking all the risks in the early stages. This is a 30-minute race plus an extra lap, so there's a long way to go. It's warm, even though it's 20 to 10 in the morning here at Barcelona, and you've got to be cautious of the tyres, particularly when they're cool. Yeah, they had the formation lap, but pressures and temperature are still building, so be so careful as you push, but not too much in the early laps, and try and stay off the curbs, although to be honest, most are not demonstrating that as they head down towards the chicane. Good run out of that little kink towards the chicane for car 33, which is Sébastien Lajou, the only Frenchman in the field, being run by JW Race Service. He's 5th in the AM category, but to complete the first lap, it's Guilain Cordiel who got away from the front row, having qualified in 2nd, but got in front of his championship rival Glenn van Parijs very early on. So the team GP Elite car leading by 0.8 of a second over Glenn van Parijs, and then it is Revs Motorsport's Rick Kuhn in 3rd position.
Already show themselves, these fabulous looking Porsche 992 based cars, to be very raceable, very hustleable, aren't they? Huge power now from Porsche one-make racing cars, something around 500 horsepower, double what they were when this formula was launched back in 1990 with the Porsche 964. 265 horsepower back then, yeah. 500 plus now.
Yeah, the progress that has been made,
amazing, even
through the history of the Benelux Championship. As there, looking up the inside, was Lajou. So Sébastien Lajou's already got ahead of Sven van Laere in the JW Race Service car, and van Laere now trying to fight back in the instantly recognisable car tucked in behind 33 with the day-glow yellow nose and the orange roof. Caught a glimpse there of the 2nd place car, Nicolas van Dierendonck, who has had a couple of races in the championship already this year, but is in as a guest entry. He did the full season last year, hails from Bruges in Belgium. He was showing me photographs yesterday of the castle that he lives in, Napoleonic castle in the centre of Bruges. Very cool guy, and great to have Van Dierendonck part of the grid again, although not a full season entry as mentioned. This third place fight is spicing up very nicely. Rick Kuhn, in a sense, the cork in the bottle, because I think Xavier Maassen is maybe carrying a bit more speed than the youngster ahead of him. So you've got 18-year-old Rick Kuhn, 42-year-old double former champion Xavier Maassen fourth, and then Sam de Jonge, who has experience actually in the European Le Mans Series that Graham and I are calling later on in the weekend. Sam de Jonge, the 30-year-old from Kalmthout in Belgium, is currently fourth in the championship and fifth in the race.
Move there between the 53 and 24 cars. We were saying about youngsters and some of the more middle-ranking ages here. Let's not forget Don Bastien, who's at the moment down in 19th, 76 years young. Dominique, the oldest ever starter and finisher at the Le Mans 24 Hours. He has his first outing here in Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux after trying the British Championship just a couple of weekends ago.
He was at Knockhill, in Scotland. Oh, a little bit of a spin there for Jeroen Kreeft, who is driving the 917 numbered car. Remember, they're all Porsche Cup cars, in fact, but the Revs Motorsport run Jeroen Kreeft a slight rotation at the chicane, but has managed to rejoin and will complete that lap very shortly. But the move we were talking about is actually a change for second in the AM category, because Stijn Loetta has got ahead of Nicolas van Dierendonck. So the Q1 track racing car down a spot, and that means that the NGT run driver, Loetta, who hails from Hasselt in Belgium, now up to second place. Still, though, as the top two sort of break away a little bit on this third lap, it is all about third position. And Rick Kuhn, who is one of four drivers part of the Porsche talent pool, which is incorporated into this championship, the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. And when you're in the talent pool, you actually get the services of a certain Dirk Werner as essentially a driver coach for all of those four drivers. Rick Kuhn is one of those guys, and he's still in third position, defending nicely.
Track limits warning for car number 78. That is Michael Heverhans in the Belgian racing team. He's looked after by none other than Mark Goossens. Great to see Mark here in the paddock. This is the only car fielded this weekend for the Belgian racing team. At the lead of this race, though, Guylain Cordeel is getting away a little here, Johnny, approaching a second and a half up, having set the fastest lap a couple of laps ago. And Glenn Van Paris is struggling a little to stop that flow. And that's going to get more and more urgent as these minutes tick down.
Speaking of urgent, very tight indeed between Sven van Laere and Giovanni Scamardi. Scamardi, brand new to motorsport. He's done next to no car racing prior to this weekend. Very Italian-sounding Belgian, in fact, Scamardi, and run by Duvo Racing of Luxembourg. But those two were nose to tail a moment or two ago. That's for 5th and 6th. And in fact, you can lump in Sébastien Lajou as well. So 4th, 5th and 6th in AM. Very tight indeed. These three cars turning left now through turn 6 and to the real quick right-hand kink. Down in towards turn 10, which has been, I was about to say recently reprofiled, but we've had a full season now of the new corner at turn 10, which is faster on the approach and has actually taken, I think in these cars, a real good overtaking opportunity away. Unless you get a very good run through that kink at 9, of course, you would have to build an overtake a couple of corners back these days. So there with the Dayglow yellow nose of the car is Sven van Laere, having to attack and defend at the same time. And they're just starting to queue up behind, because also Michel Haverens, who you've just mentioned, is in that little line of cars, number 78, 7th in the pro category.
It's allowing young horse Felix Felbermayr just to close the gap a little to this group in the number 88 car. Another debutante, both the car and the driver, and for that matter the team, the first ever, I am told by Christian Reed, team principal, entry into a Porsche Carrera Cup round by Proton competitions. Change there for position, that is the number 48 car going by the 25 to take position. Yes, Scamardi later on the brakes than Van Laere was, and into turn 1, the place that has been threatening to change for the last couple of laps is finally, the move is finally made. And therefore Sébastien Lajou has a different car to look out for in the door mirrors. Black and orange machine number 48 then of Giovanni Scamardi.
and Lejeune, the Frenchman, just up ahead. Those two are teammates, 48 and 33, so they might take it slightly more easy than perhaps had Van Lara tried a move. And Van Lara, now having been overtaken at the first corner, is watching the Belgium racing team and Haveren's car getting a little closer. Here's the scrap for third in Pro, and Rick Koen still unable to break away from Xavier Masson in his team PGZ by Red Ant racing car. And in fact, there are two machines from that same outfit running fourth and fifth, because Sam de Jonge still sitting right behind his teammate.
Plenty of battles up and down this 20-car field, and one that's beginning to close in again now is the battle for the lead. We'll have a look at that one, I'm sure, pretty soon. But what was 1.5 seconds ticked down to about 1.1. It's gone out a little on this lap again, but all of a sudden we've got the 15 car in the hands of Glenn Van Parijs, getting his head down here and getting on with it with 20 minutes left in this race, plus that extra lap.
Of the two races, you would have said on paper this was where Glenn Van Parijs was going to score more points, because he had laps deleted, second fastest times from yesterday evening's session, which has actually put him in fourth place for the grid for later on today. So he'll have 3 cars in front of him that he'll need to overtake in, again, a 30-minute race plus a lap. When you start from pole, the target must be 25 points, and ideally fastest lap as well, which carries an extra point. So I'm sure Glenn Van Parijs will be kicking himself that he didn't get the car off the line as well as Cordeel alongside him. But there's still 20 minutes to go in order to close the gap and fashion an overtake. And I have to say, an absolute best through the first sector now from Glenn Van Parijs shows his intentions well.
I think there's no doubt he's going to be looking to make a battle of this in this middle sector, middle part of the race. An exciting conclusion can almost be guaranteed in what is a de facto title battle at the moment, putting aside Harry King's absence for this weekend only.
A shout for Jaume Font, who is a Barcelona resident. He's the only Spaniard on the grid. He's run by Bapora Motorsport, based just up the road in a place called Vic. And they know this place like the back of their hand. They've run several TCR cars through the years. I'm sure have won the Barcelona 24 Hours as well, which is going to be held in a couple of weeks at this venue. But in a sense, you know, Jaume, he's an AM driver, but he's competing certainly with the Pro-Ams, and he's actually in front of some of the pros as well, because he knows this track so well. So Font currently running in 7th position. He was a double race winner at Assen in the last race weekend that the Benelux Championship had. So this could be 3 class wins on the bounce for Jaume Font. And there is Jan Lariessen, who is the Belgian that leads the Pro-Am division for Q1 track racing. He's had several wins through the course of the year, 5 of them within Pro-Am.
And he's got a mighty class advantage at the moment. Not just, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 4 cars between him and the second place car in Pro-Am, but a significant time gap as well to defend with 18 minutes to go.
So Lariessen going round turn 4 now. On the downhill approach is the race leader to turn 5. This is Guylain Cordeel, the 23-year-old from St. Nicolas in Belgium, run by Team GP Elite. Actually the only GP Elite car on the grid. So if you compare it to those teams that have brought 2 or in some cases 4 cars, they don't have as much data tuning through the system. But nevertheless, Cordeel, that's not stopping him. He's had experience of certainly finishing 2nd this season. This would be a first win if he can stay in front of Glenn Van Parijs. But we don't want to speak too soon, because we haven't yet had half of this race.
No, and that gap is going up and down, 10th here, 10th there, in either direction, still over a second. And that lead claimed with a cracking start off the line to just get in position to muscle his way through turn 1 and claim that lead. And since then, Glenn Van Parijs has been just hanging on to his coattails rather, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's been an impressive performance so far for the race leader, Cordeel, all done in those opening moments, really. He will have been working through how he was going to get the car off the line all night, I'm sure. These were the cars last on track on Friday and 2nd on track on Saturday morning. So the turnaround has been very swift indeed. Caught a glimpse a moment or two ago of Didier Glorieux. Now, if that surname rings a bell for ELMS fans and indeed Michelin Le Mans Cup, they're his brother Jean Glorieux, a former champion in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And Didier very much enjoying this sprint racing. He's not really an endurance man, he admitted to me. That'll come, I think, in a few years' time, but he wants to focus on these lone drive opportunities. Now, side by side in two separate occasions, because up the inside of Le Jus there, full position was Stijn Lovetta, and also almost a change into turn one with the 78 car of Michel Haverens, pressurising the car in front, the number 25 machine. Not a chance to get through just yet on Sven van Laara. And
perhaps an opportunity there to see the difference of that anti-lock braking's made for the AM driver, Johnny.
Yes, because the Dayglow yellow with the orange roof car, number 25, does have the ABS enabled, whereas the Pro-Am and the Pro cars are not allowed to run with it as per the regulations. None of these cars have traction control either, which makes delivering that 503 brake horsepower onto the road surface from a standing start very tricky indeed. You can understand even drivers with experience like Glenn van Parijs might struggle on, I was going to say a coolish track. Well, it's not particularly cool. Certainly cooler than it was, though, last night. As now up the inside, Haverens on the 25 car gets it done through that right-hand kink. You're not really hitting the brake pedal, certainly not a hard stop through there. However, this time into turn 10, the ABS will surely favour the man on the inside, Sven van Laara, and he gets the place back again on Haverens. This is spectacular racing. Michel Haverens, again, relatively inexperienced. He's part of the talent pool as well. To the outside of van Laara, no way through there.
Cracking stuff from this pairing, clean as a whistle through 3 or 4 challenging corners there. That is allowing the chasing cars, though, to catch this pairing.
And again into the chicane, Sven van Laara with a slight advantage in slowing the car. 25 still ahead of 78. Very close for the race lead, though, now. Guylain Cordeel, well aware that Glenn van Parijs has got his head down and has been starting to home in now on the number 2 car from Team GP Elite. So the NGT racing machine that is doing the chasing has got the gap down to 0.7 of a second, as Sven van Laara has to put his car right in the middle of the racetrack at turn 1 to defend from Michel Haverens behind.
And that's allowed Horst Felix Velpermeyer to close right up in his brand new number 88 car. The Proton competition team, by the way, telling us that they are looking set to enter Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland next year with a pair of cars. Whether or not Velpermeyer, Horst Felix Velpermeyer, third generation racer, let's not forget. His father, Horst Velpermeyer, previously junior, is going to be in the European Le Mans Series race tomorrow in LMP3.
These are the leaders, Graham. These are now the leaders. So remember, it was 0.7 of a second at the start of the lap. It's down to 0.4 part way around it, and basically a car length between them. So is this a question now of Guylain Cordeel pushing a little too hard in the first half of the race? He's all over the road coming out of the chicane. I wonder whether Glenn van Parijs, having taken it a bit more easily, has more to give now in the closing stages, as the speed lover car of Didier Glorieux gets ahead of 21. That was for position within Pro-Am as well. New second place car is the white and green number 7 of Didier Glorieux, having just got ahead of Tom Bonen, who is we should remind you, a huge name in road cycling. He's a former green jersey winner in the Tour de France a number of years ago, now retired in that role, but making a name for himself in single mate racing, and he also does some long distance motorsport as well. Great to have Tom Bonen as part of the grid, but he won't like that too much, having lost a position to Didier Glorieux. Yeah,
Glenn van Parijs is now trying to pressure this leader, looking for Weplace Cordeel, and is putting the nose of the car just where it can be seen, trying to force the error. That's the game here, but coming into traffic again now. This 3-car battle is soon to become a 4-car battle, by the way, because closing up behind Horst Felix Velpermeyer is Luc van der Vesten.
Now, these 2 cars chasing the bright highlighter machine of Sven van Laara are actually pro-entered drivers. That is because they're young guys just breaking their way into Carrera Cup. Horst Felix Velpermeyer does have an FIA precious metal rating as well, as in he's silver, so that will automatically put him into the pro category. And the Proton competition car essentially trying to get ahead of Michel Haverens. But if they can also get ahead of Sven van Laara, that will give them overall position as well, of course. Still no change between this duo. Cordeel ahead of van Parijs.
Yeah, some interesting tactics going on from the second place driver here. Braking very hard, visibly behind the car in his eye line. I think he's absolutely trying to force an error.
Yeah.
Looking to get him to close a gap that really isn't there. That, I think, is the tactic right now from the chasing driver.
Well, the advantage that Van Parijs has right now is that Rick Koen is at a safe distance. He's 9 seconds further back, so he doesn't have to be thinking about where Rick is. As then there, Sven van Laara is a little bit wide, coming away through turn 11. Haveren's a bit more neat and tidy behind the giant rear wing on all of these cars of Van Laara.
So it's a time for cool head from Haveren's, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Haveren's, the danger is he puts his car in the wrong position on the road. And straight away, Horst Felix Felbermayr will be straight there to plug the gap as Van Parijs thinks about exactly the same manoeuvre into turn 5. It is a great overtaking opportunity there, but the road drops away from you. The camera tends to flatten this track out, but it really is downhill into 5 and indeed 6 and 7 here. And then you climb very slightly uphill. Just nudge the car, the rear of the car off that yellow sausage curb to knock it back into line. Very fast right-hander at 9. Again, Guylain Cordeil had to arrest a slight moment through that very rapid right-hander. And Rick Koen under pressure once more from Xavier Masson and Sam de Jonge. And the royal blue car behind them is Jan Lariessen, who leads the Pro-Am division. They're all going to fan out. Here comes Masson up the inside of turn 10. De Jonge might also want a bit of it. Was there a bit of a touch there, in fact, between Koen and De Jonge? Places, amazingly, stay the same. I thought Masson had got that then for third, but Rick Koen came back fighting. Yeah,
Rick Koen stuck to his guns, didn't he? I think he did take a bit of a love tap there from the number 777 car behind, but that did not stop the plan. Xavier Masson just rather overcooked on the exit, and Koen minding his P's and Q's and managing to come out still in the lead of this group.
So Jan Lariessen, the fourth car in that sequence, has a decent lead in the Pro-Am Championship, 193 points at the start of the weekend, plays Didier Glorieus's 145. So Lariessen doesn't really want to get involved in a battle that isn't the Pro-Am scrap. However, I'm sure he'll be wanting to, see how good he can compare to those 5 pro guys, or at least 3 pro guys immediately in front of him.
2 multi-car battles to watch in addition to this lead battle. Poor director doesn't know which way to turn and actually now finds another battle and another positional change.
Yeah, so that's Giovanni Scarmadi in the 48 car, and he was behind Didier Gloria as they crossed the line, but he's actually scrapping with Tom Bonen. So that's an AM car fighting with the third-placed Pro-Am, number 21, Tom Bonen, the man from Mol in Belgium. As 4 cars again around turn 2. And Sven van Laara still ahead of these 2 pro cars and the 911 machine of Luc van der Viesten, who we've not mentioned a great deal about, but the team PGZ element of the... at the inside, Xavier Masson again. Now, he tried this a couple of laps ago. Rick Koen reverses the positions again. Masson's very good at getting into third around turn 10, but he can't make it last for the end of the lap.
Yeah, what's he going to do to make that stick, Johnny? I'm not sure there's much he can do. It's clearly the better line for the car that has led into the corner. Doesn't lead through it, but leads out of it.
Yeah. Just to finish the point about Team PGZ by Red Ant Racing, the Team PGZ is a dealership, a Porsche dealership in Belgium, and Luc van der Viesten is the boss of that dealership. So he's taking active part in motorsport as well. Great to see that, running in 7th position in the 911 car.
The bonnet is loose on the front of Xavier Masson's car. Just the leading edge of that bonnet flapping away. That's not going to be helping the aero of his car. I wonder if there's been a little bit of contact there.
Well, I wonder whether there was a touch actually between the red car of Sam de Jonge and Rick Koen in the
Definitely
white and teal. Yeah.
That's been noted by race control.
So that happened not during Xavier Masson's last challenge for third into turn 10, but the previous occasion. But yes, has there been just the slightest of touches to the rear of another car? Well, Rick Koen, you would have to think, that has now bent the bonnet clips on the front of Masson's car.
Just under 7 minutes to go in this race, plus that lap, so almost 10 minutes pressure still to soak up by the people in the lead in these battles, including, of course, the overall race leader, Ghislain Gourdale, who has his mirrors full either side, almost at the same time, of Glen van Parijs. But great defence going on in these battles, it's got to be said.
Yeah.
Really impressive stuff. And very limited contact that we've seen so far, despite the fact it's been some pretty feisty racing.
Well, these two have certainly not been leaving much on the table, Ghislain Gourdale and Van Parijs. Now there's a drama for the number 14 car. I was about to say we hadn't mentioned a great deal about Lucas van Eindhoven, who is again one of the talent pool drivers at 20 years old. He hails from Eindhoven itself, in fact. But was that either a puncture or running out of brakes into turn 10 for poor Lucas?
Like a very big lock-up at the very least. It's certainly not going to have done very much good for his Michelin tyres, is it? And back we come this time to the lead battle. Close this time. Looks to the inside, no way through there.
So Van Parijs look to the left, now looking to the right as they head into turn 3. Rik Kuhn under massive pressure again from Xavier Masson and Sam de Jonge. Oh, big sideways moment for Masson. That's cost him time, and de Jonge surely will now think this is my moment to maybe slither up the inside of turn 3 or indeed 4. And what about a penny for the thoughts of Jan Lariessen in the queue, leading Pro-Am. Doesn't want to spoil that, remember, but would love to get actively involved in the scrap for an overall podium. Still in the hands of Rik Kuhn as we watch the race leaders work their way out of turn 6.
Lest we kind of miss the point, by the way, is yet another crack at the next of these battles. Those two leaders, the leading pair, by the way, 13 seconds clear of the battling pack behind. That's a mark of just what the pace has been as we're coming into more traffic for them and another challenge, but also the delay that gets caused when you get into a multi-car battle stays well out of the way there.
Very gentlemanly driving there from Jeroen Kreeft, who has had a spin at the chicane, remember, so Kreeft is a bit further down the order, still on the lead lap though. Well, no longer, because of course the top two have just managed to squeeze by. So Jeroen Kreeft running in 9th position in the AM category. Don Bastian's a bit further up the road from him as Rik Kuhn crests the rise coming out of turn 11 and down into 12. The final sequence of corners at the chicane as well. Over the line with 4 minutes plus a lap to go. Ghislain Gourdale for Team GP Elite, leading the NGT racing car of Glen van Parijs by 0.3 of a second. Still, Van Parijs just cannot force a mistake from Ghislain Gourdale. Remember, he's on the cusp of his first race victory this season as Rik Kuhn moves his car well over to the right and then back to the more natural racing line. Still, for me, Xavier Masson, the faster of these two.
Absolutely. Rik Kuhn has driven a beautiful race here under extreme pressure from a very experienced competitor behind him. He's kept a cool head for what, almost half an hour here under absolute pressure, allowing the car behind to take the position at a point where he knew he could retake it. Not once, but twice. But nose to tail now for the leaders. 3 minutes on the clock, plus that lap. Masson looks again to the inside. Kuhn again closes the door on that.
As Jeroen Kreeft goes wide to allow this 4-car train through. 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. And the 6th place car is the Pro-Am category leader, Jan Lariessen. Here are Gourdale and Van Parijs, 1st and 2nd in Pro, and still a good distance away from Rik Kuhn in 3rd. Amazingly, they've been scrapping amongst themselves, but still finding time on everybody else. Xavier Masson in the black 28, well over to the left. He's tried this on several occasions. Sam de Jonge carrying really good mid-corner speed, but he couldn't use it because Masson was virtually stopped right in front of him. He's trying to find a way past 18-year-old Rik Kuhn, and it's still as you were. If Masson and I think de Jonge were able to get underneath Rik Kuhn somewhere around the circuit, they would be able to edge away from the young man. But it's just not been able to happen so far.
Massive defensive drive from Rik Kuhn. And the 777 car just not close enough to take advantage of, effectively, the leading car in this pack, just parking it on the apex.
Yeah. And this is credit to Stuart Parker's outfit, Parker Racing, who have dovetailed with Revs Motorsport for 2022. So remember, they run the Harry King car when Harry is taking part in this championship. He's a runaway championship leader, but not with us in Barcelona, because instead he's at Spa-Francorchamps for a couple of supercar, or the supercar race there. Meanwhile, down into the chicane, the 25 car of Sven van Laere. Every credit to this AM driver as well. There might be a change here with Horst Felix Felbermayr looking up the inside of Michel Haverens. In the end, there was no way through for the 17-year-old Austrian.
That was a mistake from Haverens under braking. He almost parked it as well, and that's allowed the young German driver to just get into the slipstream of this car. Can he do it under braking here? Remember, neither of these with the ABS. The 88 car is going to take the position.
Looking for a way through. That will give him the inside line for turn 1, but Haverens is able to keep alive on the outside. But now Horst Felix Felbermayr to the inside of turn 3 and will finally make that stick. So they'll give him 7th position in the pro category, 16th overall, and now he will get a chance, only a couple of laps mind you, but a chance maybe to get ahead of Sven van Laere.
Coming into the final 30 seconds, plus the lap to come, remember, and all of a sudden Cordale has just managed to edge out a couple of tenths as we get into, well, the witching hour, if you like, of this race. It's been a cracker, Johnny.
Certainly fascinating to observe this third place fight, and indeed the yin and yang of the leading duo as well. Big gap initially for Guylain Cordale, and it did look like it was going to be an easy race victory for the 23-year-old Belgian, but in the end, actually, the man who is slightly older, 27 years old, Glenn van Parijs, using that experience to reel in the race leader. Still no way by, though, as they work lap 17. So one more circuit to go, the 4.6 kilometre circuit here in Barcelona, and all sorts of different lines being used by Xavier Maassen down into turn 1. Still no way by Rick Kuhn, though. All of that coaching experience that he's been receiving through the season from Dirk Werner paying off so far as they head out of turn 3 for the final time. Sam de Jonge in the treble 7, the all-red car run by Team PGZ by Red Ant Racing. And Jan Lauriesen might have a chance to pick off de Jonge in the closing stages. Lauriesen certainly more neat and tidy through 4 and downhill into turn 5. So 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th still all together. Race leaders much closer to the checkered flag. Yeah,
all 4 of them with completely different racing lines for each corner there. It's,
now, Michel Haverens is battling away with the 911 car because Luc van der Veesten has got ahead, it looks like, of Haverens. Yes, so that's the 911 AM entered car, another Team PGZ machine by Red Ant, now ahead of the Belgian racing team car of Michel Haverens.
I think Haverens had a moment somewhere there on that lap, lost a lot of time.
Heading out of the chicane. Now, last time around, we still had a few seconds on the clock by my reckoning, so there will be one more lap to go. As Guylain Cordale, 4.6 kilometres, he has to defend as Maassen tries up the inside. There's contact on Rick Kuhn for 3rd position. The door was slightly ajar, and now de Jonge's going to go for a spin as well after a touch coming out of the chicane. So Maassen with contact on Rick Kuhn almost certainly, and I think there was secondary contact then between Maassen and de Jonge. Let's have a look again. So there was a gap, but Maassen wasn't fully alongside as he went for it, and de Jonge trying around the outside, the merest of grazes, which has pitched de Jonge into a spin as well.
Well, the problem for Maassen is going to be he didn't go for the gap, he hit him in the rear. It wasn't a side-by-side contact, it was front to rear, and that, I suspect, is going to lead to well, some work at race control to determine what's going to be the fair outcome of that, but that's not going to be any consolation at all to Rick Kuhn.
And Rick Kuhn now with the hazard lights flashing just needs to keep his head. He's rejoined the race right in front of Lucas van Eindhoven. So an 18-year-old ahead of a 20-year-old. Different teams involved here though as well, remember. The JW Race Service car is the dark green machine. And Lucas van Eindhoven will be raring to go for position here because he wants to gain another spot in Pro. That would give him a top 5 finish if he can get ahead of Rick Kuhn. It's not done yet for the race lead. Unbeknownst to these guys, carnage behind at the chicane, but Guylain Cordale and Glenn van Parijs. Van Parijs is a little bit wide coming through 11 there, and maybe that very slight error means he won't have a chance to stab a move up the inside into the chicane. We wouldn't have wanted to see contact similar to Masson anyway. Bumping over the curbs there is Guilain Cordeel, and he virtually has this race won then. It will be his first victory of the season after a second place last time out at Assen, but a first win for the 23-year-old Belgian from St. Nicholas. And congratulations to another guy who's really been there or thereabouts when it comes to a season race win. Xavier Masson all over the road, coming out of the chicane there to finish in third, at least on the road. Jan-Larry Essen will finish in fourth place, which is a great overall spot for the Pro-Am leader, benefiting from the carnage behind. There's all sorts of bits of Porsche strewn across the racetrack on the main start finish.
I think Horst Felix Felbermayer's had a problem. He has stopped on the side of the track after a slow lap. I wonder if he's had a puncture.
Yeah, well, we didn't see the incident, but yes, the amount of bodywork that is littering the start-finish track would indicate maybe a Michelin tyre has let go. That might be as a result of too many curb strikes from Horst Felix Felbermayer, who's still getting used to these brand new cars. Never raced a Porsche before.
Yeah, it is.
And there it is. It's the front left that has gone on the young man's Porsche Cup car. Proton Run, as we've mentioned, the first ever time that Proton competition has been part of a Carrera Cup championship, and that is disaster in the closing stages. It means Horst Felix Felbermayer will not get the race finish.
Excellent race from the winner here, a first-time winner this season from Guilain Cordeel. Took that lead, Johnny, in turn one with an excellent run off the line, and then was in he was in attack mode for the first half of this race, full-on defensive mode from there on in, and as far as I could see, almost completely faultless. Yeah,
for the main part, actually, the car was on rails. There was that sticky spell, I think, mid-race when he just started to get a bit lurid, a bit sideways, and Michelin tyres don't like to travel sideways. They're not designed to do that so much. But actually, he weathered the storm perfectly, and despite all of the pressure, Glenn van Parijs, with his one win this season, was mere tenths of a second off the rear bumper of Cordeel, but he didn't break, he didn't buckle, and Guilain Cordeel with a first race victory of the season. 25 points going his way, therefore. Fastest lap of the race was in the hands of Cordeel as well.
Lap 2, I think.
And
it was,
yes, confirmed. So he'll get a point for that as well. 26 points. Didn't get the pole for that race. So it's a point extra for Glenn van Parijs, plus the 20 that he will get for second. But 26 points going the way of Cordeel. Van
Parijs will see that as 6 points lost here, I've no doubt. He needs those points. There was an opportunity. He certainly is obviously closing the gap to the absent Harry King. Yeah. But the opportunity was to close it even further and to lead the championship into next week at the final weekend. He can no longer do that, by the way. Here's the official rundown of the results. 18 laps completed for Guilain Cordeel and a first race win of the season for Team GP Elite. Glenn van Parijs in second, 0.3 at the line. Xavier Masson a long way back. There are question marks as to his third place finish. Jan-Larry Essen finishes in fourth as the Pro-Am winner. Am is won by Jaume Font. We didn't actually speak a great deal about the man from Barcelona, but Bapora Motorsport victorious as many expected. A sixth place finish overall for the Am class victory. Rick Kuhn dropping back after the strife at the chicane in the Revs Motorsport number 9. He finished ahead of Lucas von Eindhoven though, and then Stijn Luetta second in Am, and to complete the overall top 10, the speed lover run, Didier Gloria finishing second in Pro-Am. Jeroen Kreeft did get to the line, but Horst Felix Felbermayer, of course, finishing sadly with about a lap to spare down at turn 1 with only 3 inflated Michelin tyres on his wagon, and a big blow up on the main start finish straight means that car 88 will need to be recovered. I'm sure Proton have got a few spares for that car, and they've got a few hours as well in order to turn it around. Might be a bit touch and go, but the next race, the final race of the weekend for the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux, is due off at 5 to 3 local time this afternoon. So we're rapidly approaching 20 past 10. So about four and a bit hours in order to get the cars prepped and ready to go for another 30-minute race plus the lap. Quick look there at Don Bastien, finished on the lead lap, the 76-year-old American. So next time you're going for a weekend visit to Grandad, That's the yardstick.
Absolutely. He is a very successful businessman from New York. Well, actually based in Florida these days. Only started racing when he was 60 years old, amazingly though. Now, let's have a look back on the highlights of the first race this weekend in Barcelona at the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux, their 9th race of the championship. And there were certainly some fantastic battles to feast our eyes upon. A spin for Jeroen Kreeft fairly early on in the race, but he was able to recover to 20th position. Jan Lariessen completing the race in 4th overall and a win in the Pro-Am category. And that is now actually elevated to 3rd because we're getting word of Xavier Massen's in-race penalty. It was actually a drive-through penalty, which he wasn't able to serve at the time, so they've given him a 30-second penalty instead. This was the battle, though, on track between Rik Kuhn and Xavier Massen, the double former champion. And a good move there from Didier Gloria. But this was the spike point, if you like. It had all been building up to, unfortunately, double contact for Massen. But Guilain Cordeel, a winner for the first time this year, ahead of Glenn van Parijs. And they did very well, the two of them, to avoid all that debris on the start-finish straight as well. So let's hope that...
not just rubber debris, because the blowout also blew the headlamp unit out of the number 88 car.
Yeah.
So now being recovered so that we can get back to track action here.
So look to the bottom of your screen and there's confirmation of what was a drive-through penalty for car 28, Xavier Massen, converted to a 30-second post-race penalty for causing a collision at the chicane.
That will drop him from 3rd, in fact now corrected on timing, 3rd to 11th place and just a tiny bit ahead of 12th. So 11th place at the flag with that 30-second penalty.
We can confirm the result, in fact, on our graphics. So Cordeel, Van Parijs stay the same. Jan Lariessen elevated to 3rd as the Pro-Am winner. Sam de Jonge, unfortunately involved in that contact as well, finishes 4th. Ahead of Jaume Font, now a 5th place overall as the Am winner. Rik Kuhn rejoining to 6th. Lucas von Eindhoven 7th. Stijn Loetta, Didier Gloria and Giovanni Scamardi in his first race at this level, certainly car race at this level, finishing top 10 overall and makes the Am category podium. Xavier Massen relegated to 11th once you incorporate that 30-second penalty. Car 28 finishing 11th ahead of Nicolas van Dierendonk for Q1 track racing and the team PGZ run Tom Bonen. Then it was Sebastien Lajou, Sven van Lara and Luc van der Vesten. And a reminder that Horst Felix Felbermayr was our only retirement. Dominic Bastian, the oldest man to start and indeed finish the 24 Hours of Le Mans, got to the end of that race on the lead lap. So our podium for the 9th race of the championship for the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux is prepped and ready to go. And in a moment or two, we will welcome the top 3 drivers, certainly overall, and possibly some class winners as well. It is fantastic to have the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux back on the European Le Mans Series support package, though. This hasn't happened since the Red Bull Ring last year, in fact, because normally an ELMS weekend is so crammed full of ACO rules championships, but because the Michelin Le Mans Cup and indeed the Ligier European Series is not here this weekend, that has provided us the vacancy on the schedule for Carrera Cup Benelux.
Did have them, I think, at Spa for their first round with the FIWC. I think one of 3 national championships on Carrera Cup racing to share the bill with the FI World Endurance Championship, and I'm quite right that it should. The record of providing a kind of talent pool, you mentioned the official talent pool, but that staircase of talent that Porsche Carrera Cup racing has provided now for what, 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Quite amazing. And with Porsche again entering the very top class of international sports car racing, what opportunities await for the high flyers in the national championships from around the world in the future.
There's also a lot of interest now surrounding Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux itself, because a few drivers not necessarily from the Benelux countries have spotted the opportunity to go to an awful lot of Grade 1 and in most cases Grand Prix circuits, and there are available drives, more available than, for instance, the Carrera Cup Deutschland, Carrera Cup France, but you can come here and start to get trophies very early on, but on recognised tracks, and that then gives you a springboard potentially to go on into the Deutschland Championship, to go on into the Mobil 1 Super Cup. Yeah, 4 Formula 1 tracks, current Formula 1 tracks on the calendar this year. Spa now confirmed that Formula 1 will be back at Spa next year, and quite right that it should be. Zandvoort, Barcelona here, of course, and Hockenheim, all amongst the 6. The other 2, Assen, a very quick and challenging track, and Zolder, a real driver's track there too. Yeah, it's tight and twisty, but a fabulous circuit nevertheless, and I don't think any Benelux Championship could miss out Zolder along the way. My thanks, by the way, yesterday to Olivier Aerts, who is effectively the series manager, the championship manager, and he sat down with me for a couple of coffees. That's why I've been able to sound relatively knowledgeable about this championship, because of the various bits and bobs that he's passed on to me. But Olivier, very confident actually that the field, the amount of cars that we will have on the grid, will continue to grow into 2023. He's hoping for maybe 25, 26 cars by this time next year. And very exciting that the countries that they're tapping into in terms of future talent. Will Aspin from the UK was competing at Assen, for example. We haven't got Harry King to represent the United Kingdom, but he will be back, it's my understanding, for Hockenheim, just taking Barcelona out. And what it really does do is close up the championship, potentially, because this week alone carries 54 points. And the gap last night from Glenn van Parijs to Harry King as the leader, 50 points. So if Van Parijs can score well in the second race of the day from 4th position on the grid, remember, that will really have closed up the points deficit. Well, after this result, the objective for Van Parijs is to get that points gap down to single figures, isn't it? Yeah. So he's going to need to stay out of trouble in trying to get his way to the front of this field, and that didn't prove easy today, or this morning. Going to get one more crack at it, but he's going to get one more crack at it, not from pole, but from 4th on the grid, as you quite rightly said earlier in the broadcast, Johnny. So that's going to be a test of the talent and the kind of self-control of the championship challenger at the moment. The objective has got to be to win, but it's got to be to keep a weather eye on what that points gap is to Harry King for when battle is rejoined at Hockenheim for the final doubleheader of the season. And the driver that has just won his first race of the year will start from pole position later on this afternoon, so that will be a further shot in the arm for Gilles Cordiel. He'll have Rick Kuhn, who's proved to be very fast for Revs Motorsport so far today, in 2nd, and in 3rd position a certain Xavier Masson, ahead of Glenn van Parijs. So it'll be about how Van Parijs can get off the line from 4th spot. The grid for later on, based on 2nd fastest times from the 35-minute qualifying session late last night. By the way, in doing that, Cordiel keeps his mathematical chances of the title still alive. It's tight, but still alive. He's got to win. He's got to win everywhere. Yes. But what he's done is to keep his faint championship hopes alive today. Well, that will certainly be a big bolster for him. He's, I'm sure, focusing on just scooping up as many points as possible. But now, after a bit of a wait, the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux podium about to take place. And thank you for sticking with us, if indeed you have done, to witness these 3 drivers. And a bit of an unusual podium because of the change around late on. Congratulations to Jon Lauriesen then. There he is with the 54 on his back. Lauriesen, the runaway leader in the Pro-Am category. Remember, he had a lead of nearly 50 points, 48 it was at the start of the weekend for the Q1 track racing gang, and that's another 25 going his way. 2nd position then to Glenn van Parijs, but the winner for the first time in 2022 is Gilles Cordiel. There's Olivier Aerts, who will be presenting the trophies, the champagne bottles at the front of each of the 3 steps as well, ready to be cracked open. And on a warm day, there won't be too much of a concern, I'm sure, about getting the race suits a little damp, although no one likes to be driving in a second race when your suit is soaked in sticky champagne. But there is Gilles Cordiel, And he's visibly out of breath, isn't he? Because it's a warm, warm day already and a lot of pressure. Here's the national anthem of the winning driver. The champagne sprays from Jan Larissen with the Michelin cap on backwards, eager to douse Glenn van Parijs and the winner, Guylain Cordeel. And there'll be a few more podium presentations still to come.
Yeah, the champagne bottle dumped upside down on the back of Van Parijs' suit. So let's hope he's got a spare. So the podium is reset for the first of the class victories.
Yes, the overall is done. Pro-Am and Am to come next. There is also a rookie championship, which only involves this year, so far, 2 drivers, Rick Kuhn and Lucas van Eindhoven, who are both, by definition, part of the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux talent pool as well. So you've got Rick, Lucas, and then the 2 guest drivers this weekend automatically put into that, Michel Haverens and Horst Felix Felbermayr. So Dirk Werner has been a busy boy this weekend, former DTM and, well, still existing GT3 racer. So great to have his knowledge spread around the campus to the young drivers who are getting Porsche support, both in terms of engineering ability, but also managing yourself outside of the car as well. So Jan Larissen, another Belgian, opening the gap, extending the gap indeed, in the Pro-Am leadership. That is now 6 wins for the season. And he has won at every single track he's been to so far. So Spa, Zandvoort, Zolder, Assen, and now here in Barcelona. And Didier Glorieux in the white race suit with the green trim. Here's the national anthem for Jan Larissen. The third man on the podium, to the left on the third step, is Tom Bonen, the man we mentioned mid-race as well. 3rd position in the Pro-Am category. A huge name in road cycling, having competed at all the major events, including the Tour de France. In fact, he was a trophy winner in 2007, the Tour de France, as the green jersey victor. The cyclist with the most accumulated points during that event, but he's won so many other keystone cycling events in the kind of noughties and 2010s.
I mean, an astonishing set
CV.
Of achievements on his CV. You mentioned Rick Kuhn and the rookie championship. His recovery from the spin after the nerf from Xavier Masson just good enough to bring him home ahead of his rival in that championship, and that's retained his lead in that points chase for the rookie championship. Yeah,
it was only 6 coming to this round, and again within the rookie championship you still get the point for pole position, you still get the point for fastest lap, and you get 25 points for a race win. So it's actually the full 25 going to Rick, and Lucas van Eindhoven will get 20 for finishing just behind him. So that's even more frustrating in a sense for Lucas to have not been able to jump ahead of car number 9. Meantime, the podium for the Am category now, and heading towards the podium is Jaume Font as the race winner, and here is Jaume. I'm sure he's brought an awful lot of support with him this weekend, hailing from Barcelona, competing of course in Belgium and in the Netherlands, mainly Germany to finish the season, but it will be the national anthem of Spain, bouncing around the PA system here at Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, for Jaume Font. A dominant victory for the Spaniard as well, actually finishing top 5 overall, so congratulations to him. And alongside him, Stijn Loetta to his right. And the final few trophies now being presented. And we will hear the national anthem then for Jaume Font, the AM category winner. Jaume Font, Stijn Luetta and Giovanni Scamardi, who you might have noticed hasn't quite got the right overalls on for these cars. That is because until fairly recently he'd been in another single-make championship, but it is fabulous to welcome Giovanni to the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux, and he gets a podium during his first outing.
Porsche would like us to say he's traded up.
He's traded up. Quite right, so yes. Has been doing some tin-top racing for another fairly major German marque, but here welcomed very much into the Barcelona fold at the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. Confirmation of a changed result post-race, remember. Guilain Cordeel ahead of Glenn van Parijs, only 0.3 of a second between them as they cross the line. Jan Laurie-Essen wins Pro-Am and gets a third place overall. Sam de Jonge next. Jaume Font top 5 as the AM winner for Papora Motorsport ahead of Rick Kuhn, who rejoined just ahead of Lucas von Eindhoven. And then further down the order, Xavier Masson, because of the 30-second penalty, knocked down to 11th ahead of Nicolas van Dierendonk, Tom Bonen and Sebastian Lajoux. Sven van Lara had a really good scrap with Luc van der Viesten and Michel Haverens, and he finishes ahead of Dominic Bastien, the final car on the lead lap. That is Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux Part 1 done. Join us later on, though, for Race 2 at 2:45 this afternoon. We'll see you then. Bye for now.